I'm here to share about today, on the note of ideas, is an idea a few friends and I had that has now become a reality. And I think it's a pretty good idea. I'll say it's a good idea because in 2012, President Obama invited us to his house, the White One, and called us champions of change. And that was really a turning point for the organization. So what was this idea? This idea allowed university students to donate the extra money from their meal plan to people in their community who are facing hunger. So as many of you know, university students who live on campus have meal cards. And every week they earn 10 or 20 meals. And if they don't use all of those meals in that week, they roll over and accrue. So by the end of the year, students are left with a ton of money on these cards. And what happens to all of this money that they or their parents have already paid for? Nothing. They are unredeemable. You cannot get them back. So our organization, Swipe Out Hunger, gives university students the opportunity to choose to donate them to people in their community who are facing hunger. We do this through a partnership with the university. So the university agrees to give students this option. Students take just a few seconds to write down their info that they want to donate. The school takes the money from their account and donates it directly to a local nonprofit that's fighting hunger. So how much money do you think we've collected so far, just from a few bucks on some meal plans? We've collected over $600,000 just from a few schools. So we're currently on 14 universities. There are two numbers on here that I'm most excited about, which is the 15,000. So 15,000 university students have chosen to stop and decide, instead of buying an extra pizza or bringing all of my friends in to get a meal, I'm going to choose to stop and donate. The second number is the over 100 universities who've heard about our program and have emailed us asking how they can start a chapter on their campus. So I'd like to start with where this all began. What was the original idea? And I'm going to take it back to December 2009. This is my co-founder and very good friend, Brian. So to give you some context, we've been working on this project for a little over 5 years. 2 years of that, 2.5 years of that, I was a student. 1 year of that, I was working on the national organization as a volunteer. And I'm celebrating my almost 2-year anniversary as our first full-time staff person. So thank you. We're hiring our number 2 if anyone is interested. So in this first model, students would walk into the dining hall, swipe their cards, and buy a meal. They would then walk outside and hand it to us, and slowly behind us, we would have what I like to call a mountain of styrofoam boxes. These were then loaded into our cars. We would drive across Westwood, downtown, and hand these out to people. And in that first week, we collected 300 meals. So 300 people were fed, 3 times the amount of people in this room received meals. It was such an incredible accomplishment. Word really got out. The only person who kind of was concerned was the university. Because one, we were potentially harming someone who didn't have, we weren't a restaurant, we didn't know food safety rules. And 2, we were creating a new program that disrupted their model. And so they asked us to stop. And instead of stopping, we said we have a valid claim. We said, come to the table and let's see how we can make this work. So the new model that we came up with, students would instead come up to our table. This is an addition of our current model. Come up to our table and say, 30 meals is what I have left over. I'd like to donate them. We submitted that information to the university, and the university took the funds from their account and pulled it all together and bought massive amounts of non-perishable food, which was then donated to the community. And a little innovation within this innovation is right now, Brian and I are standing in UCLA in the student food closet. So this was a food closet a few friends started to address hunger that was happening on our campus. I'm gonna come back to this, but it was definitely an exciting moment to be able to help our fellow Bruins kind of get back on their feet. So our model changed again. In this model, we had collected 7,000 meals in a single week in the former picture. In this picture, we had collected 15,000 meals in a single week, just from one school. And so now we had a bit of a storage problem. This is actually outside the office of Councilmember Paul Koretz. Does anyone know him? He represents the Westwood area. we had a friend there, and we asked him, what are we supposed to do? We have all of this food. The nonprofits aren't ready to accept it. We need to store it somewhere. And he said, I don't know anywhere, but you can store it in my field office. So this is right off of Olympic. He had ramen and water bottles out of his field office for a couple months. So it helps to know people. And so we really faced a storage challenge in this one. And finally, this is a much more recent photo. These are our students at the University of Pennsylvania. And so now, when a student decides to donate their meal points, the university just takes the funds from the account, again, pulls it all together, writes it into a check, and then donates the check to a local nonprofit who even more effectively knows how to use these dollars and really have a massive impact. So this is me just a couple months ago, almost a year ago, and I put this in there to show the magnitude of how much we've grown. This was a pitch competition where I went up against several other nonprofits who've been around for sometimes decades. And this new innovative idea that just a few friends started was the one that was chosen to win. And so I mostly love sharing this story because often we doubt ourselves when we have an idea that sounds a little ridiculous, but it's great to run with it. So why did I tell you this whole timeline? Why do all these stages matter? I'll attribute one of the reasons why we've been so successful and mostly why we've grown so much is because we've been so open to evolution and to adapting to our environment. So whenever the university said stop, we said why? And we unleashed this whole potential of having non-perishable food being collected. And I'm not saying when you have a brilliant idea, dilute it and take in everyone's opinion, but sometimes when we have a really great idea, we grow a little attached and we love it, and then we surround it so no one else can, change it, and then it starts to maybe become irrelevant and outdated. So always good to really collaborate with your community. So we've currently spread onto 14 universities, and when we first began, we were sending everyone exactly our model. We sent them a 10-page PDF. Anyone who wanted to start a chapter would get this thick packet in the mail, and it was extremely ineffective. We invested a lot of time and it didn't work. We've iterated our model now 4 or 5 times, and in our current model, students get to decide pretty much everything, even down to the name of their program. This culture of innovation and self-ownership is, again, what's driven our success. So our students are encouraged to out-innovate us. So if we have a model, but they come up with a better solution, we say by all means, take it, and then we as a national organization actually take their idea and incorporate it into the way that we teach what we do. So this idea of innovation and outdatedness has really become a part of our culture, and I'm sure everyone has heard of the quote that culture eats strategy for breakfast. So I always encourage everyone to really think, how am I acting? What is my communication style? And how can I make sure it's more effective? So I wanted to go back to this concept of student hunger. Right now, UC San Diego, which is just a couple hours away, 1 in 4 students on that campus struggle with hunger. Nationally, 1 in 7 college students will face hunger and actually go to a food closet. So this is a national problem that is just gaining light. And we as an organization, one of my favorite innovations that came from giving our students this autonomy is our support of students who are in need. We began a meal voucher program at UCLA's campus. A student came up with this innovation, and the meals that we were collecting to be given to the community were actually reinvested in meal vouchers. And the university knew which students were in need and was able to distribute them to these students, so just like everyone else, they can enter the dining hall and access a warm, healthy meal. To date, we've helped more than 4,000 students who are in need get back on their feet, and we're in talks with the entire UC system to have our program roll out on all of their schools. Just a reminder, a couple years before, they were asking us to stop. Definitely one of my, thank you. So this is, as my talk kind of comes to a close, the pitch competition that I showed you the photo of later, it was very difficult. I had to go through many rounds of harsh critique to be perfect for when I get up on stage. And one of the coaches, judges in one of the preliminary rounds came up to me and handed me this piece of paper, and it says, the most innovative ideas come from existing practices or resources treated in new ways. And she believed that we hit the mark on this. And so as we provide all these meals to the community, to people in need, we're very aware that providing meals won't end hunger. People will always be homeless in our current society, and people will always be in poverty. And so if I can take it a bit meta, and we want to talk about repairing the world, tikkun olam, what can we do to actually create an impact? I believe that the students, those 15,000 who've donated, and even more, our student leaders who are starting and leading our chapters, are the answer. Because they will graduate, they will go into finance, they will go into medicine, they will go into engineering, they'll go into nonprofit, and they will be citizens who care, citizens who are involved, who are aware of the privileges they had and the realities of their community, and they'll be more ethical in their business. They'll support politicians or run themselves for political office to encourage inclusivity and social welfare for their entire community. So I ask each of us to see what little innovations or small tweaks we can make in our daily lives, whether it's donating meals or whatever it might be, to make our systems more effective. And sometimes, you don't know, they might swipe out hunger. Thank you.